Hello and welcome to another awesome episode of Untitled KKP Show, the show where we talk about video games and nothing but. I'm also deciding what our final title will be, which will probably be a never right now at this point in time. I'm your host, Mr Toffee, and apologies for skipping the last episode. As you can tell from my throat, I'm recovering from an infection and whatnot. Actually, it started around Monday, Tuesday last week while I was covering landing at Level Up KL. That was on Tuesday. That was actually like the last straw of it, so I felt like I needed to stay back home and couldn't really do much until today. So now we're recording on the 13th of October. Got some bunch of stuff we gotta go through. I should actually open up like that was actually like the Level Up stuff that I should probably cover before we continue on. That was supposed to be last week, but that didn't turn out. That didn't happen, so let's just try that. Hold on. Let's try that. Okay, sweet, we got that. Alright, so I got my little so that's the stuff that a lot of people and I myself have published. Let's see if I got a list all out written ready. Hold on. I got like one whole row. So Level Up was pretty cool. So that was actually a lot of things that pretty cool stuff. So we got a bit of a recap right there. So for last week's Level Up KL 2025 on Tuesday, they hosted the inaugural Southeast Asia Game Awards 2025. They picked the best of the best, top 40 games. I mentioned this in the previous show. So now we have the winners. So in category announcement order, best technology goes to Weirdlets by Weirdworks. Best visual arts go to No Straight Roads 2 by Metronomic. Best game design goes to Grim Trials, Rolling Glory Jam, and Neon Doctrine and Soft Source. Best audio design goes to No Straight Roads 2. Best score and music goes to No Straight Roads 2. Best storytelling goes to Teller's Duty by History Game Studio in Indonesia. Best student game goes to Fires Out from APU. Best international game goes to Real Gods of Hystera from Truckload Bytes Games. I think that is in somewhere in Europe, I think. Yeah. Rising Star Award goes to Petit Island by Zello Games, Indonesia. Audience Choice goes to No Straight Roads 2 from Metronomic. And the Grand Jury Prize goes to Troublemaker 2 from Gamecom Team. Apparently it's a huge improvement from the previous Troublemaker game, like that's Yakuza meets Indonesian Cityscape. And we'll see how that goes, how the updated part 2 is. Maybe they change up the engine a bit, maybe they made the controls better. I gotta find out for myself after I talk about the games that I'm gonna talk about today. So congratulations to everybody who got the awards and those who participated and got nominated. Metronomic themselves got like 4 awards. And yeah, you can actually see one of the pictures of one husband with all the prizes and everything. He even actually had like some of his entire staff studio pop up on the stage to get the first award, and then to pop up again for like the full prize picture taking ceremony and bit. So that's really cool stuff. So looking forward to the game that's coming out next year. Played the demo, I talked about it. One husband told me that they're working on the changes and whatnot that I mentioned. That's really good. Constructive criticism and feedback is always very good to pass to developers so they can make the game much better. So looking forward to seeing the changes for next year onward or so. Really cool stuff. Now we also got the IGX awards. Hold on, from our that happened in Indonesia during the weekend, the past few days, 10, 11, 12 or so. So I'm gonna go to our pals at Virtual SEA Asia, who actually are a bunch of. They cover mostly Southeast Asian games, so they are gonna be. They recapped even the Indonesia Game Awards, so I'm just gonna recap it here. Thanks to those guys. So, best visual arts goes to Petit Island by Zello Games. Best music audio goes to Afterlove EP by Pixel Nesia. Best game narrative from Afterlove EP. Best game narrative goes to Afterlove EP. Best gameplay goes to The Chef's Shift by Paniscia Game Dev. Chef Shift, you know, like cooking chef and everything. Yeah, I played that game. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it a lot. Like type stuff really fast to get the orders you want and whatnot. You get the typing wrong, you get screwed up the order, and the cooking orders and whatnot. Really cool. Yeah, very, very, very challenging. And Game of the Year goes to Absolum EP by Pixelnesia. Now, I gave this game a pretty good rating. I kind of like the art style and the story and the music implementation and whatnot. It's not a hardcore difficult game or whatnot. It's meant to be a nice smoothing adventure game that deals with loss. Yeah. And the team themselves dedicate their wins to the late Fahmi Hasni, who actually did bring up the ideas of the game, you know, and also for Coffee Talk and everything before he passed away. So all in all, yeah, lots of wins for Indonesian and Malaysian studios, so keep it up. Can't wait to see what the award show is like for Singapore and Thailand's Gamescom. That is Gamescom Asia, that's happening this coming week. That's gonna be insane. Yeah, looking good for the Malaysian, Indonesian, and the Asian side of things for game development, getting the awards, having some recognition and whatnot being brought up. Really, really cool stuff. So now let's get to some of the stuff. Before that, from Tokyo Game Show, we got this from Sapporo Interactive. This pretty awesome poster, as you can see. This is a really cool poster. Even the Yoji Shinkawa approves of this design of this awesome poster. I'm keeping this. I should have gotten an autograph. But oh well, maybe you can get it to me later. Sapporo Interactive. I played the game, Agni. Really cool stuff. I talked about it in the previous videos before, maybe before last week happened. Yeah. This is the poster right there. Really cool. I'm gonna put this up on the wall. Yeah, awesome stuff. Thanks, Sapporo Interactive. Alright. Maybe... Let's see, what have we been playing? What I've been playing mostly. Okay, so you got a review of Tron Ares up there. So, back in 2010, that was actually the sequel to 1982's Tron, called Tron Legacy. It basically starred the son of Sam Flynn and the actress who played the... that was actually like a program character in the show, in the grid itself. It was self-evolving, very intelligent and all that, Kara and whatnot, played by Olivia Wilde. Yeah, and that turned out pretty cool. Like that. Okay, spoilers for Tron Legacy, for a show that came out like 15 years ago. So basically, at the end of the day, Sam defeated Clue. He got out of the grid together with Cora. Cora, that's her name, Cora, not Kara. And then the program is out in real life and everything. And there was supposed to be like some fallout that happens from there with a follow-up movie. Unfortunately, that idea was kept in bed. Tron didn't do so hard, and we had to wait until 15 years later to get a new Tron film. So this new Tron film, Tron Ares, is basically just DNAs of the previous script of that they see a follow-up of Tron Legacy, but it's been made and retooled and rewritten so that it becomes its own standalone thing, which again, I see the valiant point. And they even added in the intro of a Tron Ares, they even added in like that whole like introduction to what happened in 82 with Ancom, and what happened to the Dillinger guy who got kicked out of the company and everything in 1982, and what happened. And they just showed a bit of what happened in Tron Legacy, you know, like the son of Sam and everything, Sam and Cora. What happened from there? So now this whole like grid to real life 3D printing tech, lasers and shit, that's all the norm right now in Tron Ares. So they didn't actually really build up to that. They just started as is, you know, like it's a normal thing. Oh, just get used to it, because we don't have any. There was no follow-up transition from Legacy to here in a very cohesive manner. They just jumpstart everything like there. They're just going straight to creepy looking Jared Leto as Ares, the fighter who gets to regenerate and everything. And now, is the show pretty and nice to look at? Yes, especially in 3D and in IMAX. It's beautiful, and I do like the soundtrack that comes along with it. But you can't help but wonder at the back of your head that it's just basically Nine Inch Nails just following the lead that Daft Punk set out in Tron Legacy. So when you hear bits of Tron Ares' soundtrack, you can hear some Nine Inch Nails crawling out of the grunge bit, but it's mostly just grimy tech, industrial popping up. It's not. It's just basically just following what Tron Legacy did, which is good. I mean, if anything, it's consistent. But it's definitely not Nine Inch Nails, that's for sure. It is still a Trent Reznor and Attica Ross project, not a Nine Inch Nails thing. But to each your own, I guess. It is still a lovely sounding show. It's just and beautiful. It's just that it's definitely a little bit hollow inside. Where Jared Leto and all the rest of the characters are just going through the motions. I don't feel much for them. I just know that I just want to see them get through the hurdle so I can see the next action set piece. And that's really cool. I mean, that's what Tron has always been about the visuals and tech and how the digital world works. But now this is mostly like real life and digital colliding and being, going back and forth and everything, with the whole surprise happening later on in the show, where Ares gains more self-awareness than before. Is it a terrible movie? No, far from it. It is still a watchable film for the visuals and the music, but you're not going to remember much about the plot the next day. And compared to the effort and ambition put in the first Tron and Tron Legacy, this one is like, yeah, we're just making this standalone. We're just going to make this work with the visuals and whatnot because we spent 180 million on it. And hope for the best. Because I don't see any die-hard fans going like, oh, this is like the quintessential Tron film you gotta watch. But neither is it shitting on the legacy. It is actually staying true to some of the parts. It's just that there are just some parts between Legacy and Ares that needs to be there to make people care more about Ares, I feel. Otherwise, you can just enjoy Tron Ares as a serviceable sci-fi film that you're not gonna care about the next day. Save for maybe the awesome light cycle designs from Legacy put into Tron Ares, and some old school stuff here and there, in the outfits and the recognizer and whatnot. Yeah, really cool, really cool designs and everything. Yeah, if anything, it's just a lot of red. I mean, compared to Tron Legacy is blue. Now this Tron Ares is like Tron but red, more red than you could possibly need. I've also reviewed a couple of titles. Can talk about it since all the embargoes have lifted. Little Nightmares 3. It is an adventure game. You can play as co-op and single player with an AI, where you play as Low and Alone as you escape the realm of Nightmare? I wrote the name of this on the review. I forgot what it is. It's the Hellscape. Nowhere. Basically, you go through like a bunch of get out of the necropolis, and then you go through like a bunch of stages, fun fair, which is actually a demo being presented at all the trade shows for Little Nightmares 3. This one's being done by Supermassive because the original developers left Tarsier. Tarsier left to create their own game, which is basically legally distinct Little Nightmares, away from Bandai Namco. So the visuals for this, Little Nightmares 3, is a very nice, very fun, a lot of trial and error kind of puzzle game where you need to figure out how to escape from monsters and the bad guys chasing you, figure out which is a safe platform to climb, what's climbable, what's tuggable and whatnot. So Low and Alone, they have their own weapon set. Low has a wrench she takes out, and then you can use it to bash things, or bash glass, or destroy barricades. Alone has an bow and arrow, shoots switches from far away or target enemies. You don't kill that many enemies in this. In fact, you run from most of them. You've got giant babies coming after you, ringleaders, ringmasters, monsters and whatnot chasing you down. It is what you expect from part 1 and part 2, except I think it's its own storyline with these two characters, and the world might be the same, but story, everything is a little different. I mean, I like the fact that they unfold the story bit by bit without saying that many words. They show, don't tell a lot. This is a very short game. You can finish this in 5 hours or so. But it is pretty fun for the time you're given to play this with a co-op partner. It is better with people, so you can figure out how to tag team certain things here and there, do things, whatnot. I played this mostly with the AI. The AI is usually very smart, except for maybe 1 or 2 parts where we're running away from monsters, where they just collide to you when you're climbing up the same platform. You kind of have to wait for them to go first, and then you go later. But other than that, it is a very enjoyable horror, Tim Burton-esque PG kind of horror game. I mean, it is like, you know, like in the 80s, those kind of horror shows where they can show scary shit when it's like a particular PG rating. Yeah, this is a Little Nightmares 3. A really beautiful, very dark, because there are just some things I just cannot see unless I brighten up the camera and everything. Really, really interesting. Again, the puzzle design isn't exactly like very taxing. They're just, again, it relies more on trial and error more. But as an experience kind of game with the atmosphere and the horror, it is definitely one worth buying. At least you buy it and you just trade it off again, you know, after a couple of days. Yeah. A couple new games. Absolum. That is a very awesome 2D beat 'em up. It's a roguelite mixed together with a beat 'em up. I love the controls. It is basically .mu. No, this is a God Crush game, the Super Monk's way of paying tribute to Capcom's Dungeons and Dragons Shadow over Mystara and Golden Axe from Sega, where it's a fantasy world. You play these 4 outlaws. They fight different styles and have different skills. You got combos, light attacks, heavy attacks, you got jump attacks and whatnot. As you progress through different bosses, you fight them, kill them, you gain different skills, inspirations they call them. And you gain new skills like a dive kick for Galandra, or a running ram attack, headbutt for Carl. And you can even, once you get the points that you need to go through all the roguelike stuff, build up your score and everything, get the crystals, level up your characters. I mean, you get the resources you need for your permanent upgrade when you die. And you will die eventually because this game gets really, really tough. And it cheats on you, definitely. But you're going to get the tools you need to get through crowd control and doing dodges and whatnot. So when you die, you go back to the start, the sanctum, and then you get to upgrade your characters, whether it's upgrading your health, your mana gain, or the individual tool set, or even the elementals you get. So you can actually get passive buffs from elementals here and there. You get the power-ups, the elementals, you get fire attacks, water that pushes enemies away when you jump, or do an arcana attack. You even get to do a bunch of finishers where you can summon bramble knives and you get to collect knives. So you have unlimited throwable attacks you can dish out and throw at enemies. And we know how valuable throwables are in the beat 'em up, right? So this the God Crush Games actually knows what they're doing. They're the fans of the beat 'em up genre, and they made it tailored in a roguelike fashion, which is a perfect marriage made in heaven, you know, like the one-timeness of a roguelite together with the permanent upgrade capabilities and whatnot for that system, and also the nuances and mechanics of a beat 'em up. So apart from doing combos and juggling enemies and doing double jumps and jumping and whatnot, you get to dodge. When you dodge through an enemy's attack, get to block it and then they get stunned. If you clash, where you use a special attack to clash against an enemy attack, which requires timing, just another way of parrying, then you get to stun them longer and you get to do longer combos and whatnot. You even get like a AoE crowd control attacks, ultimate attacks they call it. But you only can collect these through like stars you find throughout the stages, so they're limited resources. This game is really, really fun. I actually enjoy lots of it. The art style is basically like imagine German Impressionism done by Mike Mignola, but with a bit more detail and more of like a fantasy flair to it, like Hellboy. I look at the shading and everything is like, yeah, this is done by the guy who did Hellboy. It's actually a different studio, Super Monks, but yeah, I see the inspiration right there. Music's great too. There's even a track contributed by Mick Gordon, which actually fits well with the boss fight. Like a lot of like fantasy stuff, you know, like blaring and whatnot. Very, very orchestrated and very nice and meaningful and meaty. The progression's really good. One run will actually, I think you can actually get through it within an hour or less even, depending on how good or speedy you are. It gets really, really challenging too. I kind of like the fact that there are many, many paths you can take. Courses get tough or easier depending on which path you take, and sometimes some villages can sabotage you. They can take your money and you know, not give you anything if you actually do something for the other villages in the other path you pick. You're given all the tools to get through the majority of the game. It's just that you need to actually practice the timing of the, you know, the clashes, parries, dodges and whatnot. and knowing when to move out of the way when enemies do attack. So, you know like how most beat 'em ups, they'll attack, and then you think the attack looks big, but it actually hits just a straight line, so if you move up or down, you can completely avoid it. There is no such thing here. Most of the boss enemy attacks, even some regular enemies, they will swipe. Whenever they do a big swipe, it'll take up some parts of the top, so you really have to dodge or move out far away. Otherwise, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get comboed, and you're gonna die. So I really like the challenge factor in Absolum, especially for someone who played so many awesome beat 'em ups like Streets of Rage 4 and Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Absolum is definitely at the top there. It's actually one of my favorites for this year because of the fact that it did Dungeons and Dragons Shadow of Mystara right by turning it into a roguelite. In fact, it is basically just as good or even better than Dragon's Crown. You know, it's like the game of the titties and the fantasy work and whatnot from Vanillaware. So this one's more like, hey, this is like a different art style, new kind of mechanic. One time you go through the stage or you die, and you have a lot of fights ahead of you, and you've got like really awesome controls and combo potential. So all in all, this is one of those games you cannot miss out. I think this is up there with Pipistrello as like an underrated dark horse of 2025. Like with Mina the Hollower like being pushed back to God knows when, probably next year. I think we're gonna put Absolum. Okay, I guess I got like my top. I got my like my this one Absolum is definitely gonna be in my top 10 list. Definitely, it is just very, very meaty, very, very good, well done. Yeah, really, really good stuff. I already gave a rating for this, a 90 out of 100. So just put it here, you know, just for austerity's sake. Yeah, just right here, put the score right there. Yep. Okay, cool. Last but not least, I played about a couple of hours of Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles. I am actually still at the very first chapter, so it's after the first tutorial, and then it's a flashback. I mean, there are no spoilers for like a 20-plus-year-old game, right? I'm where I got Algus, and I have to actually deal with the Corpse Brigade. No need to spoil the game for me. I know what the hell happens. I'm actually into the voice acting, although it makes sense that they're using the kind of British people voices. I did not expect Ramza to sound like how he does. Like, he is like that British sounding person from the, like one of those young British folks whose mouth, they don't open up so much, so they feel like they're mumbling the sentences. But every other character seems fine. They sound great. Ramza's the one I kind of trying to get used to. Maybe I need to hear him in the other more dramatic scenes later in the game and everything. Especially the part when he's branded as a heretic. I want to see those bits, yeah. And have all of his former allies backstabbing him, and some enemies of his, you know, turning to the side of good and whatnot. Yeah. Where he becomes his own man. Maybe his voice changes, because when you're hearing him as a young pup, you know, trying to work his way through the Knight Academy, you can hear like the naivete and whatnot in that voice, and it really works pretty cool. Not a fan of the PC controls, but that's okay. I'm just still gonna stick with it because this is not a real-time game. This is a turn-based game. So as you know, this game came out on PS1, so obviously the controls are tailored for a controller with the way you move the cursor and whatnot. In Final Fantasy Tactics, the PC version, I'm using keyboard and mouse. It's a bit odd. How odd, you may ask? Like, when I click on things that should be clickable, I end up clicking the foreground more than the background. Like, the priority of who you click or whatnot is mostly on whatever's in front, not on whether you're clicking a unit or whatnot. I understand that, you know, reprogramming an entire game for keyboard and mouse controls might be a bit tough, but it doesn't seem like Square is doing a good job in terms of making it as seamless as possible. Yeah, moving around with WASD and whatnot is fine, but only when you select a group. You still need to use a Q and E key to, you know, switch around rather than clicking on the icon itself with your mouse. That's just a lot of like nuances and improvements needed for like the UI for the keyboard and mouse part. But if you play on a controller, you're fine. No issues right there. All in all, also the graphics, the remastering and everything, it's like, I guess it is what it is. It looks alright. I mean, it's not as crystal clear and pixely clear as the original, but then again, this is working with a company where they kind of remove the source file and everything. They don't keep the old stuff anymore. So at the end of the day, they have to build up from scratch, and that's a very admirable feat. So for Final Fantasy Tactics fans, this is the one's definitely for you guys, especially when I just hear the story being retold again in voice. But at the same time, this may be a hard sell for people just trying to get into Final Fantasy. It is a 50 US title, I believe, $49.99 USD. Might be a hard sell, especially the way it's structured and everything. But there are difficulty options, so it's always good. If you don't want to suffer through the Wii graph fight again, you want to make things easy for yourself, just put the story mode. Nobody's gonna judge you for that. I have already paid my dues for the PSP and the original version in PS1. I played that so many times, so I'm okay just going through the motions of the game easily. Alright, let's head on to some news. Okay, let's see what we got. Invincible Versus just announced its new character for its fighting game that's coming out next year, 2026. The tag team fighting game, 3v3, right? Or was it 2v2? 3v3 tag fighting game, Invincible Versus. So, Cecile Stedman, the DEA agent, the government agent with the teleportation and the big ass laser cannon, is going to be a playable character fighting against all the superheroes in Invincible Versus. This is a very awesome pick, awesome choice, considering that I like this character, Cecil. He's actually one of the guys who is actually he's the good guys who's willing to do the dirty thing to make the world peaceful. Like, it's not like a black and white kind of situation in Invincible. So he is actually usually in the, I mean, his methods are always like, for the greater good, and he's usually very bad. But at the same time, he actually did protect humanity and everything for all it's worth. And it'll be great to see him using taxpayer money to teleport around. I think there was someone on Twitter who mentioned, I think he cost the entire of the United States of America 300 trillion, I guess? 300 trillion for that one match alone. In that one trailer where they show him teleporting, doing the laser attacks and doing the nuke the giant space laser thing going on attack. Really cool, really cool. He is a trap laser zoner teleporting kind of character. The kind you actually be annoyed at fighting in a Marvel vs. tag fighter. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And alpha signups are available, so you can play the game later this year when it's in alpha state, so do sign that up. I'm not sure how that was going to pan out for Asian viewers or whatnot, but I think they might fix that. Alright, more fighting game news. Tekken 8 is introducing Miari Zo. They showed a gameplay trailer of her during Evo France. That's actually like a bunch of matches that happened by the time this podcast is already up. There'll be like results and all that. I think Arsene Ash won, and DM Leshar, he is the Ed player from Street Fighter 6. He won the entire tournament. That's pretty insane. Tekken 8, Miari Zo is a new character. She's Madagascarian. She's from Madagascar, and she actually has the power of ogre inside her, so she can actually have like giant demon fists popping up. She can actually do a staff attack. She does a climb up and pull thing, but because ogre, he's not really the most tournament friendly character, but he is a big body character. I do like to play for fun, so it'll be interesting to see, which I think I've seen most of the moves, where the dive kick or the ground pound stuff and the giant fire shit pops up from the back. She has all of ogre's attacks, so it'll be kind of cool to see that being put in a little girl. So she will be out on December 1st in early access, and then the rest of the players can get her on December 5th. So if you bought like the battle pass for Tekken 8, you get her early, December 1st. So whether, I don't think if it's like the rest of the characters, they will have like special intros. No story mode edition, and that's about it. Kind of like the bare bones, kind of like a DLC. So if you're into that, yeah, go ahead. She looks like an interesting little girl for people to play as. So it's like a Zafina, but with more ogre powers, and Probably more interesting and easier ways to have her attacks go from regular to ogre to staff. Alright, Grand Blue Fantasy vs Rising has its other character, Meg. She is the shark girl. She has a shark attached to her hand. She gets to use it as a projectile, as a launcher, as an assist and whatnot. And then she has a friend, a girlfriend, popping up in one of her supers. She looks like an interesting character. I think she's more like an assist-based set play kind of character, like Zoe from she's the one, the dragon girl, Zoe. I think except for shark and in beachwear and shit. So she'll be coming out 15 October. That's like in a couple of days this week. It'll be interesting to check out how her actions and animations are. Yeah. Let's see. I guess Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, Joe Higashi came out during Evo France week. I checked him out a bit, got a really cute story mode where he's trying to be a superstar, trying to film The Legend of Joe. So he was about the prize and all that. He wants to film like his climactic battles and whatnot. It's a pretty standard side stuff kind of story. He plays a little different from his past KOF iterations. I think he still hits hard. He has some mix-ups or so, but generally he's supposed to be like not a big body character, but acts like it per se. I can't say his damage is the best compared to like in back in KOF, but he's got a bunch of moves. I think he's better played using arcade controls because there's a lot of his mix-up that requires him to cancel, feint, or cross up like a Preacher. I mean, in fact, Joe teaches Preacher his moves, so Preacher should have his moves, right? So, yeah. And, yeah, that's actually the big one that popped up a couple of, I think earlier this morning, at the time of recording. Avatar Legends is a fighting game being made by Gameplay Group International. I have no idea who these characters are. So that is your page right there. It is an upcoming fighting game coming out for summer 2026. Supposedly it was cancelled by its original publisher, but now it's been picked up again. Maybe there's a group called Gameplay Group International, or a new publishing group that picked it up and now are trying to fix it and make it a better game. I saw the animation, saw how it looked and everything. It's definitely a 2010 kind of fighting game. It is a slightly worse looking Skullgirls, I must say. I don't know. I applaud the fact that, you know, Nickelodeon and the developers are going ahead with the 2D animation style, but it seems a bit off. Maybe I might need to play it more to actually reconfirm the fact that it might be a decent game. But again, from the trailer itself, that's supposed to give you a good first impression. It is giving an okay impression. Plus, this isn't like from a very small time. Avatar, that's a very big license, guys. Nickelodeon, they're not. I mean, they have money. If they can pay more money to make the game look better, they should. And so far, it is looking like a 2010. You know, like how Street Fighter, the HD remix game moves and everything with the frames and all the new art. Yeah, I'm seeing that here with this fighting game, with Avatar Legends. It has 12 characters. Maybe I'll just mention that before I get to my points. It has a playable characters so far: Aang, Zuko, Katara, Toph, Sokka, Azula, and Korra. But from the looks of it, it's, again, maybe I just need more gameplay, more footage, more hands-on, more trusted, you know, playthroughs from content creators and fighting game guys to tell you how it is. And maybe I should check it out myself, you know, see how that goes. But for this kind of fighting game, it's like the kind of announcement you expect. Like, this is like Deadly Fighters in 2010, you know? I'm getting that energy. Like, again, I'm sorry. This is like, I mean, I know a lot of you are interested and excited about this, but this looks, I don't want to say cheap. I know there's a bit of money put into this, but after seeing a lot of games coming out, especially around that time period, a lot of other fighting games that rely so much on visuals to get their point across, this feels a bit choppy. Average budgeted. I think that's the word right there. Okay, if it promises full support, slow netcode, yeah, sure, I'm all for it. But let's not forget, a lot of us were hyped up for DNF Duel and Hunter x Hunter. Look how those games panned out, right? Right? So try not to fall into the cycle of hype fighting games. This looks interesting, but not really into it yet. I may need to play it or need to get into it to check to maybe even give my thoughts and reaffirmations for it. But for now, consider this a 2010 kind of game making a comeback, being brought back from the dead somehow in a way that looks like it's not as good looking as Skullgirls, but God knows it's trying to be. It's trying its best to be. I think that's it from the news side. Nothing else I'm gonna want to bring up. Alright, that is 10 minutes of talkie and whatnot. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm gonna cut this off a bit short, unless if there's some breaking news that pops up, I'll definitely do that. I totally missed out on K-pop Demon Hunters while I was on my trip out in Japan. So that was in Fortnite. That was really cool. Really cool they actually brought that. So hopefully there are more news about that coming soon from Sony and Netflix. So yeah, having K-pop in Fortnite, that's actually a sign of success, that's for sure. As for other news, yeah, sure, we'll talk about it as the time goes by. So in the meantime, I'm going to try to recuperate a little bit, rest a little bit. I've actually got a lot of embargo stuff I'm going to cover, which you probably hear either this week or next week or the following week or even next month even. So until then, this is me, Mr. Toffee, signing out. Thank you again for watching the show. Do tune into our YouTube page and our Twitter and our website. We post new content every week. Do subscribe to our channel and everything. Yeah, hit the ding dong button as usual. Thanks again. We've reached 140,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, guys. And we're gonna keep doing the same thing we've been doing. More awesome content, video game, anime stuff for you guys. So see ya next time. Bye bye.